How's it going, guys? And welcome to your Smackdown review. So, before we get started, people said they want to hear me talk at the beginning of videos because, I don't want to do 1,001 different videos on here about little topics. I don't like to do that. If you noticed in the past year or so, I've really tried to avoid making excessive amount of content. I've been trying to kind of space more things out on here, and if I can condense things down to do less videos, just so I could make them a little bit longer, better, more entertaining, then that's what I'm gonna do here on this channel. I'm not gonna flood it with content. So we'll stick with SmackDown reviews, and I'll talk about other things that are going on in the wrestling world. So, first things first, we'll talk about, who's being inducted into the Hall of Fame. They were going to do Batista, and he can't make it because he's doing more important things than wrestling. So, he says, he'll accept it next year. So, it really just shows it's a disposable award. It could wait till next year, guys. Whatever, it doesn't really matter to me. The Great Khali, people, even people I'm friends with on Facebook are complaining about this, and I have to say that I don't really have a problem with the Great Khali being inducted, because actually I kind of think he does deserve it, and I do kind of see the argument for some people that according to WWE, everyone's a legend. That's not really the case. When I look at the Hall of Fame, I'm going to be honest with you guys, and this is coming from me, I don't really see a lot of people that don't deserve to be there. Just about everyone in there, has done something. The Celebrity Hall of Fame, I mean, sometimes one appearance is kind of ridiculous. Especially if they didn't do anything that notable, like for Snoop Dogg, for example. What the hell did he do besides throw Chavo Guerrero over the top rope, was it? I mean, come on. That's not a Hall of Famer right there. Mike Tyson is a Hall of Famer. There's been a few people who have done some substantial things where they deserve to kind of be in there. And on the wrestler side of things, just about everybody pretty much deserves it. So I can't really look through it and say oh, no, that person doesn't deserve it. That's bullshit. No, I think most people do. So, Khali, I really did like his feud with The Undertaker. I don't have a problem with him getting this spot. Also, he had some memorable moments in there. They put him in there against Rey Mysterio. He's had some really entertaining moments. And when he first came in, I mean, this guy was imposing, before they made him the Punjabi playboy, and it got completely ridiculous. There were a lot of good moments with Khali where this guy was a huge, massive threat, and he came in, he took out The Undertaker, and there were a lot of moments where we were shocked by Khali. He demonstrated power. I think that he does deserve it. Also, Kane is going to be in there. So, obviously he deserves it, probably even more than Khali, of course. But yeah, does Khali deserve to be in there? I don't have a problem with it, really. I think that he has had enough big moments in WWE during the Ruthless Aggression era where I'm okay with Khali being in there. Am I a big, gigantic Khali fan? Well, no, but I don't really hate the guy. I thought he was a total goofball during the PG era of things when they just completely said, hey, you know what? Let's just make him into a goofball for no apparent reason. And, then they just pretty much ruined everything that they had done with him up to that point. And they had done a lot of good with him up to that point. So, Khali, I don't have a problem with it, really. As far as Raw goes, wow, I mean, they beat Sheamus again. Lashley beats him, again, beating Lashley, beating Sheamus clean. I mean, especially when they're trying to have, Sheamus is trying to say like he deserves to be in the WrestleMania main event. Here he is losing clean to Lashley again. Not even trying to demonstrate that, oh, maybe he was just one step away. No, not only does he lose to McIntyre, right away the very next night, he loses to Lashley. And he doesn't even try to sell. Like, they go through this big battle at Fastlane, and no one's selling anything. They're just coming in there, and they're fresh as daisies. McIntyre is in there, 2-on-1 matches. You gotta be kidding me. We've got Bad Bunny going 1-on-1 with The Miz. You know, The Miz wins a championship, and I know that he was just a transitional champion, just a paper champion. He carried the briefcase for half a year just so he could drop it to Lashley and then have a match against Bad Bunny at WrestleMania. Like, seriously, is anyone buying that Bad Bunny has over 1 billion downloads on Spotify? This guy right here. I'm saying, you look at Bad Bunny, and you've heard his music, and I know reggaeton's a popular form of music, but are you telling me that this guy, like, he's had more downloads than anybody? More downloads than Nicki Minaj? More downloads than Cardi B? You know, and these people are miserable musicians in their own right. But Bad Bunny, like, I will say that Nicki Minaj is better than Bad Bunny. I would say that, you know, without a shadow of a doubt. And I'm not even a fan in the least bit. I really dislike Nicki Minaj's music. But Bad Bunny is superior? Really? Like, this is what people think? I mean, people have horrible taste in just about everything nowadays. But I gotta say, like, this is your number one musician, and he's gotta be in the wrestling world, and it doesn't even seem like this is doing anything for the ratings. He's such a big musician, and does it really seem like it's getting any ratings or anything like that? No, it doesn't at all. So I don't understand why they're continuing on with this guy. It doesn't seem like it's really ranking in, you know, Hispanic viewers. I don't see that happening. You know, it's not showing up in the numbers. So like, we're still at like record lows, basically. And Bad Bunny's still on our TV. I don't get it. And for the creme de la creme of bullshit and just horrible cringe, Braun Strowman now is signaling during his matches for a train whistle sound effect, horn, call it what you will, because the Strowman Express. So we gotta have train sound effects. Woo woo! I mean, like, can you imagine if the Godfather had signaled for sound effects during the Ho train? You know, it was one thing when Jerry the King Lawler would add a little bit of spice to it by doing the chugga chugga chugga, because he did that with his voice, but not have an actual train sound effect, like an actual fucking train piped in on the PA. It's bad enough we're trying to be convinced that these digital fans are actually cheering. Oh, no, that's not piped in. Those are real cheers. Oh, I believe it. Trust me, I believe it. Dear Lord. Anyway, let's get into SmackDown. We've got Daniel Bryan taking over Raw like it's 2014 again. I'm stuck in a time warp. I think it's 7 years ago. And keep in mind, folks, that even me being a Daniel Bryan fan, because I just genuinely like the guy, I think he's a good guy, he's a good wrestler, but 2014 was the start of a disaster. And I've said this time and time again, and I take, you know, I take no offense when people say that Daniel Bryan's like push in WWE did lead to a lot of negative things. Now, I liked the main event of WrestleMania 30. I thought it was good. It was a good moment for Bryan. But it really showed that, if the fans cry enough, and not the fans, because it didn't do anything for the ratings, but the in-house fans were made happy for a few months. But then, they soon realized, I think many, many, many years later, and I think they're kind of starting to realize it now, they started to realize it before they started to get the fans back, is that, and, they now see that you can't please these fans. You can't please the smarks. And I don't know why, for years and years, that, Vince McMahon was against the smarks, knew to not play the house, knew to play to the audience at home. Because it's about getting ratings, not about getting the people that are already in the arena to cheer for you, which made no sense, to, appeal to the people that are already going to watch no matter what. The people who threaten that they're never going to watch again, always watch again. So, there's no point in that. And I think there's a lot of other people who have said that time and time again. You've got those people. Don't worry about those people. But they stayed in this groove. They apologized to the fans like 2 years ago, which was just total cringe. They were apologizing, bowing down to the internet fans, bowing down to Cheetos-laden fingertip goofballs on the internet. And I like Cheetos. Don't get me wrong. I love Cheetos. I really like them. But let's be honest. These are the people that they were appealing to. The internet, keyboard smashing goofballs that have, that subscribe to Dave Meltzer. They hate watch the WWE. I do it because I like making my YouTube videos for my fans on here, and I've said that time and time again, or else I would not be watching this show, obviously. Right? So, with that in mind, Daniel Bryan is back in 2021, and he is on creative. So, this is kind of on him, I think. I mean, Vince McMahon gets the final approval, so he's saying this is okay. I thought Bryan was, I don't get it. He started off the year jobbing to Cesaro, and now he's going to be in the main event of WrestleMania? Not to spoil it, I mean, for the people that didn't watch the show and you're watching my review here, this is what eventually is going to happen later in the night. Bryan sets up shop in the ring, demands that Adam Pearce give him a rematch against Roman Reigns because of the screwy finish. Pearce says that he can't give him a rematch. Bryan pitches some ideas. Let's have night 1, night 2. It's Occupy Raw all over again. And this was definitely better than having a bunch of, really ugly looking people, doing the yes chant and matching Daniel Bryan t-shirts like they did back in 2014 during that horrendous Occupy Raw that a lot of smarks put over. But if you go back to 2014, you could see that I hated on that segment and I did not like it. And I just genuinely did not like the build to that Mania from what I remember. I don't know. I remember just bashing that segment. I didn't like it. I thought it was nerdy. I thought it was goofy. And this was not nerdy and goofy, but it was just unnecessary. So we'll talk about it a little bit more as we go on. So Pearce says it can't be done. Bryan, is trying to convince Pearce. So Pearce is kind of thinking about it. Edge, comes out, slaps the microphone out of his hand, heads down to the ring, gets in Bryan's face. There's some good intensity. Bryan goes to take a swipe at him. Edge hits him with a pretty good looking spear there. And right there, that exchange, Edge showed a lot of intensity. You saw the facial expressions. Edge was believable there. He was getting pissed off. again, Adam Pearce, like, just gets the microphone slapped out of his hand. He's just standing there like a total idiot. I mean, can you imagine if that was Bischoff? He'd be yelling back at Edge, like, what the hell are you doing? You can't just come out here and slap the microphone out of my hand. But, Edge is just treating him like a goof. I mean, you see this passive-aggressive Adam Pearce, this, like, spineless guy that's just taking over the show at total random. I don't get it. I still do not get it to this day. I mean, at least I could hear Adam Pearce. At least he actually projected, or they fixed the audio, or a combination of the two. But man, like, why is Adam Pearce even on this show? Where was he last week? And now suddenly he just magically showed up again. He felt like coming to work, I suppose. Anyway, we get a rematch from Fastlane. Rollins defeating Nakamurphy. Same boring match. I don't know why we're having this again. I mean, seriously, we just had this match. You had even a clean finish to it. So what's the point of having this again? Anyway, Cesaro comes out. Seth Rollins retreats, goes into the back. We've got a confrontation between Roman and Pearce. Roman is telling Pearce to think it over, to make the right decision. Then we go to Seth. Seth cuts a promo backstage about Cesaro. Never, 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 never. Shut up! Holy fucking shit. I mean, are you kidding me? This is the thing. Remember, this is like kind of like what Paul Heyman repeating himself over and over and over again. This is not captivating promo work. This is you repeating yourself over and over like an idiot and just buying time so Cesaro could come in, swing him around a bunch of times, and that's the end of the segment. So Cesaro get his cue. So he was buying some time. So he says the word never like 15 times in a row to the much displeasure to my ears. Okay, and this is your WrestleMania match. Just like I was saying, like with The Miz. How do you go, and the same thing with, like, Bryan. Like, how is this? Seth Rollins, 2 years ago, is having a match against Brock Lesnar. Beats the shit out of Brock Lesnar in an opening match at WrestleMania. And then 2 years later, he's just wrestling Cesaro. Like, this is why there's no real stars. It's like someone said in my comments. I'm sorry, forgot the person's name, but they said, start holding my nose again when I talk about Seth Rollins. Yeah, that's right. It doesn't matter, Brad. I might be a multi-time world champion, but I can have whatever match I want. Embrace the vision. Whatever the fuck that means. What's going on here? He's world champion material. He's the main event. He's the man's man. He's Iowa's own. The cheesesteaks are fantastic. I mean, like, Seth Rollins has got to be the most perplexing, whatever you want to call this, main eventer, like, upper mid-card guy that just gets shuffled around. They don't know what to do with this guy. He goes from being top guy to being Becky Lynch's, Cringy Lynch's husband. I mean, dear Lord, with this guy already. And now we're going to have a match, Cesaro and Seth Rollins. Like, the ship has sailed with Cesaro. They did something weird, like they led us to believe he was going to win at the Chamber, and then they were like, yoink, we're giving it to Bryan. Which I did not mind, because I said I'm not for giving Cesaro a push. I've never seen this magical thing that people see in Cesaro. Yeah, he's really strong. He is. But he's got no personality. And quite frankly, I don't really see him as being this guy. Like, we're going to push this guy to the moon? And what? Give him a world title? Like, that's what people wanted? There are people on the internet that would have been satisfied at the Elimination Chamber if Cesaro won and then in the same night went on to beat Roman Reigns. I guarantee you that. I guarantee you people would have liked to see that. That's how seriously fucked up in the head a lot of these wrestling fans are. But this is what we have to look forward to at WrestleMania, I suppose. The big Seth Rollins-Cesaro match. This is the guy that Bryan was jobbing out to, like 2 weeks in a row, remember at one point? Then we get Apollo Crews, Otis, Chad Gable defeating Big E and the Street Profits. And it's again with another 6-man tag. Oh, we got to get the tag feud in there with the singles feud. They always do this type of cute little booking, and there's 6-man tags every single week. Every single week. When did it get like this? Can you picture in your head when's the last time we had a 6-man tag? Guys, think about something. During the Attitude Era and through most of the Ruthless Aggression Era, how many 6-man tag matches do you remember happening? No, really think about this. This is standard practice. And they do this shit all the time in AEW, and that's part of the many reasons why I despise that organization. But man, oh man, how many 6-man tag matches can they possibly do in a single fucking year? To the point where it's just ridiculous already. It's the same shit all the time with this. We're running in, we're hitting a bunch of spots. Okay, it's not as spotty as AEW, but these matches are so unsatisfying. There's nothing to like about them. They're just thrown together. Just gather up a bunch of goofballs and just have some little theme in there, and that's it basically. Okay, we've got Edge confronting Pearce backstage. Edge showed some good intensity. He seemed like he was really turning it up. To me, it really seemed like Edge really knows that this build-up was shit. So it was almost like on this show, he decided, you know what? I gotta give it my all here because, no one is really pulling their weight here. Bryan is basically regurgitating whatever Vince McMahon is telling him to say in these, scripted promos. And we've got Roman Reigns basically doing the same routine every week. I'm saying, I like Roman. I like the character concept. I've said it time and time again. But I said, they had a very good start to this character. But there's no, path forward for this character. With the way how they're doing it. It's the same exact promos every week from Roman Reigns. It's the same exact thing. Every week it's the same thing. Go get Pearce, Paul. Always, same shit every single week. We've got Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn on the KO show, the Kevin Owens show. And we are back to Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens again. It's 2021, folks. Welcome back to 2016. We're going back to a feud that we have visited almost every single year, where these guys just, their paths always have to cross. And I will say this though, Sami Zayn is putting his best foot forward on this show to the point where Sami Zayn was a total train wreck. For how many years on this channel did you hear me rant on Sami Zayn, calling him the taxi cab driver, talking about this guy's, look and how he was just some goofball that that had no business being on this roster, being on this company, being in the #1 wrestling promotion in the world. I've said it all about this guy. But I said since last year, and this guy he has really tuned up this character. Sami Zayn has really come into his own, and he has really made some value out of himself. I talked about it, where he came between Roman Reigns. He came between Roman Reigns And was it Edge or Daniel Bryan? Yeah, I think it was with Edge, and maybe even with Daniel Bryan. He actually stole the show from that scene. He stole the scene from those guys. Sami Zayn stole a scene that also contained someone that looks like Roman Reigns, where it's like night and day. So you really see that Sami Zayn has finally found out what it means to have a personality. I mean, he has now for a while. I'm just really trying to bring it on home here, the point that Sami Zayn has finally found out that wrestling is not about how many spots and moves you can hit per match, but it means what you can do on the show to be remembered. And these shows are complete shit, but Sami Zayn has found out how to at least pull some minuscule entertainment out of this show by doing his shtick, and it's a great shtick. And quite frankly, I have to say, like, the shtick, it gets over better than Roman Reigns' shtick, because Sami actually shows range, or he's allowed to, or he's kind of just given a little bit more free reign. You know, I just kind of feel like Roman's more in a box, because he also has to act serious, where you know, Sami could just act like a goofball. But, you know, it's more like a good sort of goofball, because it's actually entertaining and it's actually really well done. But, like, this whole thing of, like, Zayn, you know, getting challenged to a WrestleMania match, and then Owens just totally beats the fucking shit out of him. I don't know why we couldn't see at least, like, Sami get a low blow in it to, like, get some heat. It's like, isn't that pretty much what's going to happen at Mania, that they're going to have Kevin Owens beat the shit out of this guy? And here we go with the drastic shift once again. Like Daniel Bryan is just going to, you know, give wins to the younger guys like Cesaro, who I think is actually older than him, but, you know, like, he's going to give it to the underappreciated, underrated people. And then he goes on to book himself in a Mania match. But here we have something else where we've got Kevin Owens, who has main evented several times against Roman Reigns. But now we have Kevin Owens, who has main evented several times against Roman Reigns. But here is this guy just in a mid-card match with Sami Zayn. Is there just, don't you see, like, how the booking and the consistency on this show and the roles of individuals, like, you would not see this happening to Stone Cold. You would not see this happening to The Rock. Though you did see it one time. You saw it happen with Stone Cold, where he wrestled Scott Hall, and he was in the mid-card. He wasn't in a main event for the first time in how many years? And Stone Cold left the company because of that. These guys are like, they're perfectly fine with it. Main event 1 minute, mid-card the next, no problem. Stone Cold was like, fuck this shit. You're going to put me in the mid-card? I'm heading out. And, you know, like, looking back at WrestleMania 18, he actually had a right to be pissed. You know, because, like, actually, if you look at 18, that was a good match. But what was he doing the year before? Main eventing against The Rock in what was my all-time favorite match? So, you could imagine, like, Stone, you know, I remember, like, not really being disappointed with WrestleMania 18. But in retrospect, looking back at it now, yeah, it was kind of a step down, to say the least. You go from wrestling one of the greatest matches in history with just, you know, two of the greatest of all time, two of my favorites of all time, going head to head in what was an amazing fucking match, to wrestling, you know, a pretty decent match against Scott Hall. Yeah, Stone Cold, who drew this company out of the fucking dirt. Yeah, I think he probably did deserve a little bit better than that. Because the match, you know, it didn't really have a lot of fanfare where it was placed on the card. You know, now people are just okay with this. Years ago, what I'm trying to say is people would have lost their fucking shit on the roster if this was done to them. This would not be happening to The Undertaker. This would not be happening to The Rock. This would not be happening to anyone. Except for the current roster who's like, Kevin Owens like, well, Kevin Owens should just be happy he gets anything because he looks like a fat piece of shit. But, you know, I'm just saying these are the guys. They're up and down, just like Seth Rollins. Just like Seth Rollins. You know, that he goes from wrestling Lesnar to wrestling Cesaro. You can't make this shit up. Bianca Belair defeated Natalya. You know, Sasha gets the drop on her. This match is totally uninteresting. And you've got people, there's debate on social media about this match actually main eventing. Yeah, that match main eventing. Did these people not learn anything from the train wreck that was WrestleMania 35, which was undoubtedly, to me, one of the worst WrestleManias of all time? I said it at the time. That was a WrestleMania that was 10 times worse than WrestleMania 27. A lot of people like to go back to 27 and say that was one of the worst time. No, it was definitely 35. That was a fucking shitstorm of a WrestleMania where they did this main event, and it was one of the most horrible things. The finish was a complete fucking travesty. And I think I was actually pretty generous to that match when I reviewed it. I really sat back and thought about it. That was a main event of Mania. That's how they went off the air. The same show that went off the air with Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. The same show that went off with the aforementioned Rock Austin match where Austin turned heel. We're talking about those types of finishes versus that. And I see people. There are people on the internet who actually put that as one of their top main events of all time. See, guys, look at me. I'm progressive, putting the women's match in my top WrestleMania. You're not fooling anybody. To all the white knights out there that will say that, oh, I'm all for this being in the main event. Shut the hell up. I mean, honestly, you're going to put that match above, Roman Reigns and Edge? Come on. Have some fucking self-respect for yourselves, for God's sakes. I know it's just a wrestling match, but really, Sasha Banks. You want her to main event? At least the other main event had people that looked like Ronda Rousey. That looked like Charlotte Flair. I know that Cringy Lynch was in there too, but I mean, at least you had those two in there. Sasha Banks. I know Bianca Belair, I've kind of warmed up to her. But, main event? Again? After it already, ended in disaster last time? We're gonna, just suddenly out of the blue start giving them main events again? Anyway, we've got Edge backstage confronting Reigns. He tells, Reigns that he better go talk to Pearce about this because now Edge is going to have two people he could pin in this match, so he's trying to bargain with Reigns to try to get the match returned in his favor. Mysterio defeated Dolph Ziggler, and it was a pure joy to finally see Dolph Ziggler in a one-on-one match as opposed to another six-man tag match. And, of course there was something there to catch him, but I really liked the powerbomb over the barricade. Taking advantage of the empty arena, that actually looked pretty good. I thought that was a pretty good little spot they threw in there. But I mean, this is the thing what I always say. I know there's a lot of people that don't like Ziggler, but I really like the guy. I think he's got a lot of athleticism. I think the guy has a lot of untapped potential, even though this guy has been here since 2005 in this company. It's really just sad. I mean, this is a guy that they've had. You want to talk about Cesaro. You want to talk about people that have done stops and starts again. This is a guy we're talking about that's already had 2 world titles. Keep in mind. So it was nice to see, Ziggler actually getting a one-on-one match against Mysterio. And, this guy has really great athleticism, great ability. And this tag team, it is just like dead in the water. Like Bobby Roode just looks like $1,000,000. Both of them do. And this is just a waste of everyone's time. Why are they together? For what reason? What is this doing for either one of them at this point in their careers? They're tag teaming for what? I mean, these are guys that are accomplished single stars. I've said this time and time again. I'll never get, and they've done this with so many people, where they'll be in singles for years and years, and suddenly you shove them into tag teams. For what reason? These guys have been on their own. You don't just suddenly put them back in tag teams again. Bobby Roode started off in Team Canada, in tag teams, in Beer Money, in tag teams. But then he grew out of it. And then he got himself over with the TNA Impact audience as a single star. Of course they never had the audience of WWE, but I'm just saying that this is a guy that has proven that he could be a successful single star, and they just dropped the ball with him. Probably worse than anyone I think I've ever seen. And, I don't know. I guess it has something to do with him being in TNA. I don't know. Anyway, we get the big decision in the ring at the end. And Adam Pearce is going to make this a triple threat match because, of course. Bryan is getting shoehorned in there because no apparent reason. He's got a convincing argument, so they're going to grant him the spot. And I don't know why. This is what I'm thinking. What is the point of winning a Royal Rumble to just make it a triple threat match? Now, I know they've done this, when Mysterio won the Rumble and everything, but, this is a time where the storylines are not as good. This is a time where, I'm just not in the mood for this shit. And they're doing the same exact thing, and Edge even said it. He said it backstage to Roman Reigns. He is doing the same thing that he did in 2014. And the thing is, this time he's actually on creative. So, I don't know what's going on here, but remember the thing is what's kind of weird about this is remember Edge was on creative and he was unpopular when he was injured, and everyone, there was rumors about, everyone loved how Bryan was. Bryan, you're doing such a great job on creative. Even the show was sucking and getting record lows. Bryan, you're doing a great job, bud. Excellent job. How is he doing a good job if the ratings are failing and no one's watching? I don't get that. And now he's just going to shoehorn himself in there. I don't know whose decision this was, but I mean, if Bryan is on creative, shouldn't he say, well, maybe this should be kept between Reigns and Edge because this is Edge's big return, his big Mania moment. He's going to get a world championship shot, after, being injured, and then he got unceremoniously injured last year. So, maybe I should just sit this one out. Can you imagine if they put Bryan over here? Hope they don't do that, but, whatever at this point. I mean, why would you do this? Why would you put him in the main event? I'm not saying we're not going to get a good match, and I still like Bryan and everything, but the way they are booking him on this show, they are making him like a fucking leech. But I did like the way how they capped this off with Edge just completely losing his mind. He rages. He hits Bryan with the chair out of anger. He goes after Roman. Roman ducks out. Edge with the intensity, the facial expressions. He is just miles ahead. I even saw when he wrestled last week on SmackDown. He is just miles ahead of everyone else on this show. And it's from the time period he's from. It's as simple as that, when the wrestlers were just better. They just were better in every sense of the word. And there is just no way that you could look at this and not see a clear difference, even with someone that I put over consistently like Roman Reigns. The Edge is just on a whole nother level, and there's no contest. So this was a good way to cap it off. I thought Edge really seemed like he was trying through his facial features, through the dialogue, really trying to like get a sense of importance and intensity into this lackluster WrestleMania feud that just has Bryan in it for some real reason. It feels so disjointed. It really feels like Bryan is being shoehorned in somewhere where he doesn't belong. And I guess this was the plan all along. I'm just saying, why would you not want Edge and Roman one-on-one? These two big superstars, a great star from the past, who's in like the best shape of his life, versus the current generation like best star that they have, the only star that they have, the only star they've actually built from the ground up and stayed somewhat consistent with. So I don't know why they would just say, you know what, let's just put Bryan in there because this could be his last WrestleMania. Like, that is just so totally lame that they would even like think of doing that. It's just very confusing to me. It's just very random, and I think it has a lot to do with Bryan being a part of creative. Anyway, guys, what did you think of the show? Let me know down in the comments. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell so you get all notifications when I post all my new videos. I want to thank all my patrons for your continued support, and thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.